In the Arctic Circle, a plane pilot digging snow. It's like trying to make a drawing. Looks like you're a survivor, the only one at the scene. As soon as the work is done, you can see that you've created the acronym SOS. It shows that Africa, they're lost in the Arctic and need help. It looks like Overgod has made an emergency landing and the plane's engines and wings were destroyed by the VA. I've been stuck in the snow for days and is trying to survive in this harsh environment. In order to feed, he built a fishing system. By digging 3 holes in the glacial lake, attach wires and baits to wooden sticks. This way I can feed myself every day and store the fish in a refrigerated container. After another meal, Over can tidy up equipment and climb the mountain to look around. I hope to see a search plane or helicopter. Over many days, I've drawn a map of my location, and it's constantly sending signals for help through an emergency transmitter. The machine works. The red light will light up to indicate that the signal is sent out, and if there's a response, the green light goes on. Since the plane crash, Over can spend hours activating the transmitter signals, but so far, no one has answered my call for help. When the night falls, the cold is getting colder. The pilot had to return to the wreckage to rest. Recovery of strength. The next morning, the Overgod resumed digging the SOS message. But first, he came to a small pile of rocks near a hill. There you say goodbye to that AI. It shows that this stone is a grave, part of another crew member. He may have lost his life in the accident. After showing respect, I went back to digging. Remove all the stones possible to make the words SOS is clearer. I hope the message is strong enough so that another pilot can see from above. Finally, Overgod to check. See if you can catch any more fish. I found that all the hooks were empty. Out next to one of the holes, I saw a giant footprint. It seems to be a predator. I'm afraid it's a polar bear. The pilot hurried back to the machine bay and locked the door until you're sure it's safe. When you see no danger, Overgod climbed the mountain again and activate the distress beacon, waiting for the green light to come on. However, the results remain the same, and he decided to check the surrounding area. As I was worried, a giant polar bear appears from a distance, prowling in search of food. There's no other choice. The pilot returned to the plane and fell asleep before continuing the next day, but no rescue team came, and your fish stocks are running out. Overgod, what we can do is keep trying to signal for help. But after hours of persistence, I almost gave up. Suddenly the signal light turned blue. It shows that the signal has been picked up. The pilot rushed out to see where the feedback is coming from. And when I look at the horizon, I saw a helicopter flying over the area. Overgod quickly moved towards the helicopters and smoke cannons so they can easily locate you. Fortunately, the helicopter saw the survivors and prepared to land. But a severe snowstorm caused the plane to lose control, forced the pilot to get away. The helicopter is becoming unstable and make an emergency landing, crashed into the white snow. After the fall, Overgod rushed to the scene. Inside the helicopter, I discovered the pilot. He died of severe injuries after the accident. VA touch, however, I found another crew member, still alive but seriously injured in the abdomen. Overgod took the first aid kit in the helicopter and used a stapler to stop the bleeding. You saved the woman's life temporarily. But the snowstorm is getting worse. There was no way back to the plane. All they had to do was stay in the helicopter and wait. Storm tan. As the hours passed, the weather stabilized. Overgod checked survivor status and review. The equipment can also be used in helicopters. In addition to some regular wires, I also found an ice skating axe and some instant noodles. After a few days of eating fish, I don't hesitate to boil water to cook noodles and eat immediately. But I can't waste any more time. Overgod had to get back on the plane before another storm came. The pilot of the helicopter did not survive. Overgod, she was determined to bring the injured woman back. To continue taking care of your wounds. After collecting 10 get the maximum equipment can carry, he wrote a message on the helicopter's fuselage in the hope that I will see and come to the rescue. Finally, Overgod began his journey back. Bring the injured woman back to her plane. When you get there, you ask her name, but the young girl didn't understand his language, only from the pilot, as if to ask what happened with your partner in the helicopter. However, the Overgod told her that the pilot did not survive. Tell her to wait in the plane, because I'm going back to check on the helicopter again. As soon as the young girl fell asleep, the Overgod returned to the scene of the crash and saw her comrade's body covered in snow, closed as before. I buried him under the snow and put the stones on top as an act of respect. And then he started checking inside the helicopter and found a map, a lighter, and a small got jar that form a stove. Cooking mobile. At the same time, I saw a photo. It moved me and put it in my jacket. The test continues, and good luck. Overgod found a sled in the luggage compartment and used it to transport the rest of the equipment back to the plane. He put the photo he found in the helicopter next to the survivor. It turns out that the photo is a family photo. You and the pilot are married and have a little child. The girl is still sleeping and overgassed to clean the wound for you. He then turned on the portable gas stove for heating and look at the map again. We're shown more details about the area they are stuck in, while marking points with a pin. The overgod noticed the wind was rising. Go and check if you've caught any fish. I'm glad to pull the rope. He caught a fish that was big enough this time to feed both of you. I prepared a soup with fish meat and instant noodles. It's not the best meal though, but it's enough to get them through another day. When shoveling right, I woke the girl up and gave her food to help you recover. However, the loss, your husband makes you lose your strength. Hungry but overgod, he kept making her eat and drink. That everything will be fine. A few days pass. Overgod keeps sending signals, call for help through a transmitter, but there's no feedback. I'm starting to worry about saving survivors. How to be young. She seemed to be visibly weak, coughing continuously all night. The next morning God watched her and was surprised. I saw you holding my hand as a gesture. Just thank you for everything, what you've done. This give me more motivation to find a way out of here. I looked at the map again. Journey to the nearest village. It will take days of walking, but there's a shortcut through the chain. Mountains can help them get there faster. He decided to risk his life in the north. Extreme. Overga prepare more rope and bait to catch fish. Hoard as much as possible. And then you put all the equipment in the car. Slip along with the sleeping survivor. To protect you from the cold, I put her in a sleeping bag and write one last message on the fuselage. Finally, Overgod tied the rope to the sled, put it on my shoulder, and start to pull into the ice. Huge front. But when you look closely at the map, Overgan realized that the right path is actually to the north, not as male as you thought before. So he went back to the plane and corrected the message. Then we start our journey north, forced through the thick snow. After a long journey, I looked at the map again and realized that I'm still a long way from my destination. I don't want to give up though. Give the young woman some water to drink. Hours passed by. To survivors, we completed the second part of the journey, but it's getting dark. So Overgod, start digging snow to make a temporary shelter where they can rest overnight. He continued to take care of the girl to eat and drink water, both of you, in the hope that there will be no white bears in the area. A new day has come, and Overgod put on more clothes, wear masks to deal with an impending blizzard. On the way, I found a snow-covered device. I hope it belongs to someone, other survival, but upon closer inspection, I realized it's my own device, left from days ago. Inside a box he found an old ID card. Show that you are a member of the Association Test Aircraft, where members specialize in building, recovery, and piloting of test aircraft. More likely, Overgan joined the flight with a test plane. But it can't stand the extreme conditions in the Arctic and dropped, but there's no point in complaining right now. Overgan keep on going. I hope to reach my destination soon. The long journey, until you face a giant mountain. Not on the map. Despite obstacles, Overgas using an ice axe Leopold from a helicopter to climb the mountain and found a flat out on the Kia side. And then he pulls the equipment up with a rope. Try to do the same with the girl on the sleigh, but it's harder than I thought. And despite my best efforts, the weight is so heavy that the rope slips out of your hand. The sled began to slide downhill. In the last attempt, Overgod pulled hard, but no, can be retained, causing the sleigh to roll down to the foot of the mountain. I knew I couldn't pull the car up anymore. Overgod had to leave that road and go around the mountain. Choose a longer path. You continue your journey, but need to rest and eat. I found a cave under the rocks. The snow covered the entrance, but you used a digging device to open the entrance. Inside, he cooks the rest of the fish with the gusto and tried to feed the girl even though she was weak. When the night falls, the only thing they can do is sleep. But Overgod heard the approaching noise. He listened carefully and horrified to hear the roar of a wild animal, accompanied by heavy breathing. He stood up and took the axe, ready for the worst. A few seconds later, the space was quiet again. It makes you think the animal is gone. But unfortunately, the girl suddenly coughed up, and that noise attracted the giant white bear. It's starting to roar more violently and try to get into the cave, even though the entrance is so small that it can't get in. The bear used its claws to wipe out the snow. Try to put your head in the cave to stop it from getting closer. Overgod lobbed towards the bear, then turned on the flares and swing through the air to scare it off. The bear was terrified by the fire. They fled and left to survivors in the cave. But as soon as the animal leaves, the Overgod collapsed to the ground in exhaustion. Try to reassure yourself that everything will be fine. Another day has passed, and the Overgod left the cave to check on the situation. Lucky, there's no sign that the bear is back. But the shelter is no longer safe. And if the white bear comes back, you may not be as lucky as you were the night before, so Overgan keep pulling her away. Step by step on the road, it never seems to end. It gets worse when there's a big snowstorm. Startland White area. That obstructs vision. This time there are no caves nearby to shelter, and keeping going will only make you more exhausted. The only solution is to get in the sleeping bag with the girl, sharing tight space to keep warm. In this desperate situation, time goes by very slowly until everything is back to normal, and they're both covered in snow. Overgasor, get out of your sleeping bag and check your device. See if it was damaged after the snowstorm. Among them I found my water bottle, but the water inside is completely frozen. The solution now is to use your body temperature to melt, so he put a water bottle inside his jacket. Then Overga, prepare the sled for another long journey, until you walk down a street with class. The snow is very soft. It's made moving more difficult than ever. The fatigue is increasing, forced him to rest again near a rocky hill. As soon as you start a fire to get warm, Overgan asking girl, squeeze your hand so you can spread the warmth. Give each other and maintain blood circulation. However, the girl is still in a coma and breathing rapidly. To be confirmed, when he re-examined the wound on her abdomen, that it's becoming more and more serious infection. He also noticed that blood was starting to leak out of her mouth, and that scares me. You can't live much longer. Although very reluctantly, Overgod decided to leave you there and continue the journey alone, because I know that neither of you can survive if we try to move forward together in this situation. Bring only the essential equipment. The pilot tried to follow the map. On the way, I suddenly saw a rock covered in wildflowers in the snow. Overgod was stunned by this strange sight, but as we get closer, the ground beneath your feet is falling. I fell into a deep hole. A few minutes after Overgan, I woke up and realized I was in a cave, with his right foot stuck under a big rock, in the bone-chilling cold. I tried to remove his leg, but I couldn't move. After how many attempts, it seems the fate of Overgod to end life in solitude in the cold Arctic. However, don't let negative thoughts overwhelm your mind. I put the rest of my energy into trying to free yourself from the rock. I keep pulling my feet out of the snow until you free your leg, leaving a serious wound. Now you have to crawl through the snow and the rocks to find a way out. Finally, Overgod found the way out of the cave. All the escape came from the wound, making it extremely difficult to move around, and I can barely stand. He then returned to the place where the young girl had been and take a family photo with the intention of giving it back to your son. I was surprised to see that the girl was still alive and we can even talk. It looks a little better. Overgod regretted ever thinking about leaving you. I cry right in front of you. I'm sorry for my actions. I finally said that everything would be okay, then tie up the sled and continue the journey, even though my condition is very bad. Before going on, I checked the wound on my leg, and I realized that it's more serious than I thought. There's no way to treat it. Overgod put ice on the wound, then used a temporary stop bleeding cloth. Then he kept pulling the girl's sled. Ignore the pain and exhaustion to keep moving forward. To some point, I gave you the last drop of water and put snow in the bottle. Drink a little to quench his terrible thirst. Overgod looked at the map again and realized that there's a long way to go. Fatigue increasingly invades the whole body, and it's getting worse and worse. Then when you have to climb the steep slope, even with an iron rod as a stick, but the leg wound caused the climb. It's almost impossible. I finally had to stop and check the equipment, send a distress signal, but it was damaged by a blizzard. There's no other way. Overgod crawled to the top of the hill hoping to see something. When you get to where you can't believe your eyes, a helicopter is landing not far away. Overgod doesn't waste a second. Back where the girl pushed the sled to the top of the slope. Use all the energy left in you. To the top. He screamed loudly for help, but his voice was too weak. It's almost impossible to make a sound. All you can do is fire the flares. I hope that I will finally see it. However, the rescue team on the helicopter didn't detect it in a desperate attempt. Finally, he lit flares hidden in his jacket and attached it to a stick and soar high in the air. Unfortunately, all your efforts have not worked, and the rescue team is back. Helicopters began to take off from there. All hope seemed lost. Overgod carries the girl on Van Plea's rescue team. I just wish they could save you. But the helicopter flew away. Wear it for all. Overgod still put the girl back on the sleigh. I promise I won't leave you. To people lying together in the cold snow, and Overgod whispered to her that everything would be fine before falling asleep exhausted. When they were both unconscious, a strong wind began to blow violently, roll everything around. Surprise! The helicopter turned around and landed right in front of them. No matter how much danger and adversity, Overgan has overcome the limits of physical and mental. Before letting go, it's more than securing your own life. You've conquered the harsh nature, because above all else, we're fighting to protect another human being. And the movie ends here.